Hello, this is Steve Gouge, your instructor for Pastoral Ministry 401. Thank you for joining us again today. I look forward to our session as we talk about guidelines for hospital visitation. Now, these are general guidelines, and they could be applied to any visit that you might make. At least some of the principles would overlap. You will learn today the two types of reactions to a hospital visitor. What kind of reaction can you expect when you go make a hospital visit, or for that matter, a home visit? What makes the difference in how a visitor is received? We'll talk about 3 reasons. What to do before you visit. There's some preparation you need to engage in before making that hospital visit. And then, what to do when you visit. During the actual visit, what are things you can do to make the visit more effective? Now let's get started. If you've ever been a hospital patient and received a visit from someone, you probably had one of 2 reactions. Here's the first reaction. When a visitor came, they brought great comfort with them. You were glad to see them, you were excited for the visit, and you were glad they came. Or the contrast to that is that when that visitor came, you wish that they had not visited your room. What makes the difference? What's the difference between a well-received guest and one who is not welcome? Well, we'll investigate that on the next slide. On the previous slide, we asked the question, what makes the difference between a guest who is well-received and one who is unwelcome? Well, there are 3 component parts of this. Number 1, how good or how bad the patient feels. What kind of day are they having? Are they feeling good that day? Or are they in pain, experiencing difficulty in some way? Are they in a bad mood? Are they depressed or not up to par? Well, it's how good or how bad they feel can determine if they welcome you in their room. When you understand that they're having a bad day, you make a very brief visit and then go on your way. A second thing makes a difference, and that is the visitor's relationship with the patient. If the visitor has a good, solid relationship and friendship with this individual, then usually that guest is welcome. That means you have to work at establishing a solid relationship with the people you minister to. A minister who knows the congregation he's serving, who has paid the price of developing solid friendships, that person will more than likely be welcome. Now, number 3, how well the visitor knows how to make a visit. If you have skill in the art of visiting, then your reception will be solid and strong. I encourage you to develop your skills in visiting in the nursing home, skills in the hospital, skills in the home that you're visiting in, because that's very much a part of what pastoral ministry is all about. So, what makes the difference? How good or how bad the patient feels, the visitor's relationship with the patient, and how well the visitor knows how to make a visit. Now, before you visit a patient, you need to do at least 3 things. Number 1, gather information. You want to be sure you know the patient's name. What is their condition? What about their prognosis? Their spiritual condition certainly is a very important thing, because a hospital visit or a home visit or a nursing home visit can be a time to win somebody to faith in Jesus Christ. With a few calls to other individuals who know the patient, you'll be able to determine the answer to the questions we just raised about the person's name, their prognosis, spiritual condition, and so forth. You need to know these before you enter that hospital room. And in addition to this, before you enter that hospital room, pray. Ask God to help you be sensitive to the person, to love them unconditionally, and to meet the needs that they have, particularly in the spiritual realm. Now, a second thing you need to do is respect the condition of the patient. This will determine the length of the visit. The patient may be in pain, and if they are, make a brief visit. The person may be depressed, See what you can do to help them with that depression by loving on them and encouraging them and offering them hope. And then, number 3, knock and identify yourself before entering the room. A patient's room door is closed for a purpose. If you just simply barge in, it's like going into someone's home unannounced. It's like going in without ringing the doorbell or knocking on the door of one's home. So please knock, identify yourself. It might save you from great embarrassment. For you don't want to go in on a patient when treatment is being given, or perhaps the patient is in the bathroom or using a bedpan. So knock, identify yourself. And if the patient does not invite you in, then just simply leave a card. One of the things I also have learned that hopefully will help you is to check at the nurse's station before you make a visit to the patient. And you can ask a very specific question. Because of HIPAA laws, information is sometimes restricted. But if you ask this question, you will almost always receive a response. And the question is this: I'm Mr. Jones's pastor. I'm getting ready to make a visit. Is there anything I need to know before I go in there? Typically, the nursing staff will tell you if Mr. Jones hasn't slept well that night and he's sleeping now, and your visit would not be best right now. And if that's the case, you just leave a card and go on. Or they may tell you that Mr. Jones has this going on, and you need to protect yourself in terms of the spread of germs. So be sure that you ask that question. It's a very valuable question. Is there anything I need to know before I visit Mr. Jones? On the next 3 slides, we will investigate some guidelines when you visit. These are some things to consider when you make a visit. Number 1, stand or sit where the patient can easily see you. Be in their line of sight. Look them in the eye. Have an opportunity of making that face-to-face contact with them. Number 2, avoid alarm at what the patient tells you. They may have some sort of medication that causes them to talk incessantly, or they may tell you things that you wish they had never told you. But it's okay, just don't be alarmed at what they say. And also don't be alarmed if they show you a scar or an incision. Be sure to try to guard your emotion during this time. I mentioned this earlier, but it's good to come back to this. Pray silently before you enter the room. Ask the Lord to give you guidance as you make a visit that day. Ask Him to provide wisdom in what to say and what not to say. Here's another helpful hint. Don't sit on their bed. Allow the patient to have the space that they need, and sitting on the bed is never a good thing. Now we'll look at several other guidelines on the next slide. Number 4, let the patient set the agenda for the visit. Don't do all the talking. Give them an opportunity to express themselves. Ask them questions that invite conversation. Don't do all the talking. As a matter of fact, it's important for us to ask the question periodically. Why am I talking? Give the other person an opportunity to talk, particularly when you're making a visit. Number 5, discuss personal issues in private. If it's necessary to discuss personal issues and other persons are present, ask the other people if they could just simply give you some time alone with the patient. Then address those matters privately, or, if necessary, come back later. Always respect the doctor-patient relationship. When the doctor arrives, it's best to excuse yourself from the discussion or from the treatment. Number 7, leave a business card. In this way, the patient will know how to contact you if they need you, and also family members will know that you have been by to visit the patient. It is not uncommon for a patient to forget that the minister has been by. And if you place a card somewhere where family members can see it and put the date and the time, they'll know that you came by for a visit, and they also will know how to make a contact with you if they so desire. Number 8, always comfort, sustain, and support the patient as well as the family. Always be willing to provide help for them. And even if hope does not seem apparent, healing takes on many different forms, and we need to try to provide help and hope and encouragement to patients. Number 9, avoid hurriedness. Try and be totally available to the patient. Make that patient feel important, that they're the most important person on your visitation list. Avoid carrying in outside emotional stress. Leave that outside the room. Avoid being in a hurry. A lady was a visitor in the hospital, and she was sitting with a patient. The patient said several times, "Oh, I would feel so much better if only my pastor would come and visit me and have prayer with me." She said this several times, over and over. In short order, the pastor did show up. He came in, had a short visit, and left without praying. The visitor asked the patient, "Your pastor was just here. Why did you not ask him to pray for you?" And the patient said, "I could see the hurry in his eyes, so I didn't ask him." I want to just encourage you to never be in a hurry. Let that patient consider themselves so important that if you stayed there all day, your time would be well spent. Now, naturally, you're not going to stay all day. You're going to have a brief visit, but don't allow people to see the hurry in your eyes. And then, number 10, remember Scripture and prayer. It's almost always appropriate to use a short verse of Scripture and to have a prayer or offer a prayer for the person and for all their family members or friends who are in the room with them. Now, in closing this presentation, let's just review these guidelines for when you do visit hospitals. Stand or sit where the patient can easily see you. Avoid alarm at what the patient may tell you. Don't be horrified by how the patient looks or smells, or at what the patient tells you and the conditions he or she discusses with you. Silently pray before you enter the room. Ask God for His direction. Number 4, let the patient set the agenda for the visit. Don't do all the talking. Ask the question, "Why am I talking?" Number 5, discuss personal issues in private. Number 6, respect the doctor-patient privilege and relationship. Number 7, leave a business card. Number 8, always comfort, sustain, and support the patient and the family. Number 9, avoid hurriedness. And number 10, remember Scripture and prayer. As we close this presentation, let me share with you some helpful advice. When you're visiting in a larger hospital, or some regional hospitals also, you will have a chaplain. The chaplain is a great resource for you. This is an individual that can help you get around the HIPAA laws. If you go to visit in a hospital and they ask you the name of the patient and you don't have their correct name, for example, if you go to see Bubba Smith and Bubba's name is James, they probably won't tell you anything about Bubba. You'll hear these words, "I'm sorry, I don't have any information for you on that patient." If that ever occurs, simply make a visit to the chaplain's office. The chaplain will be able to help you. He can help identify a room, the condition of the patient, and he can help get around some of these HIPAA laws. So see the chaplain of the hospital as an ally to help you in your ministry.